Welcome to Vault of Midnight Comic Books and Stuff. Huge creator interview, biggest of my career. One I'm most excited for. Vault of Midnight Comic Books and Stuff is a huge store chain of comic book stores in Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, and Detroit. You can come visit us, and we're here today with Aubrey Sitterson, writer, hair extraordinaire.
Hey, Fred. Thanks for having me. I'm so thrilled that y'all asked me to come chit chat with y'all, and I am always eager for an opportunity to chill, to tell people to buy my books. Go now, buy them, get it out, right up front. Let them know.
I did.
I know. Thank you.
Quickly, I want to just say, I've been following Aubrey Sitterson for 10 years now, or something ridiculous.
That's bananas.
Both your podcasts, huge fan of. All of your work, I've read everything just because it rips.
Thanks, Fred. I really appreciate that. That's the goal, with everything I write, I want it to rip. I want it to be fun. I want it to be exciting for folks and smart and well done and well crafted. But comics is a visual medium, and it should rip. They should rip. Every comic you read every single page should mean something, and it should be exciting and a thing that you want to hold in your hands. So that's kind of my guiding philosophy, so I'm thrilled to hear that.
It translates super, super well. So just going to quickly introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your journey, your process. We're excited to hear from you. Your books have been on Vault of Midnight shelves since I've been there. Comic book history, professional wrestling, into No One Left to Fight, which we still have at Vault of Midnight. Come check it out. Just, take it away. Tell us about what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. I'm Aubrey Sitterson. I'm a comic book writer. Lex already kind of filled you in on my oeuvre. I started my comic book career working at Marvel Comics, actually, as an editor. I worked in the Marvel Heroes office. I worked on big stuff like Civil War and House of M and Captain America and Wolverine and all that good stuff. And then I also edited some of my own books, Irredeemable Ant-Man, which led to me working with Robert Kirkman. Pre-Skybound, I edited. Once I left Marvel, I edited Invincible, Walking Dead, Astounding Wolfman. I also edited, I'm trying to think, it was a long time ago, Blade, Mark Guggenheim and Howard Chaykin Blade, which is a personal favorite of mine. Ghost Rider, both with Daniel Way and with Jason Aaron. Javier Solteras, Mark Texera, Roland Boshi, Tanny Quat, all the great artists on that. But also Strange Tales, which is another thing I'm really proud of, the Strange Tales anthology, and finally came out, so I can mention it now. The Cage series that Andy Tartakovsky did. That was my baby that I started when I was there. So it I don't know, however many years later it came out, but that's how I started. And then I left because I enjoyed editing comics, but it was a means to an end. I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn every step of the process, from, editing obviously, but through to writing and penciling, inking, coloring, lettering, just every piece of it. And I figured that there's no better way to do that than being an editor. It's not that I learned everything I could, but I was ready to go. I was ready to do it, ready to get started. And it was a slog, as I think you'll hear from a lot of people in comics, that it's tough breaking in as a writer. It takes a long time, and the thing I wasn't aware of as an editor was that, once people see you as an editor, you kind of need to wait for them to forget that you're an editor before you can make an A as a writer. So, yeah, it's been a minute since then, I've been working and reading and studying and trying to, get in where I fit in. And, that involved a couple different podcasts, which you mentioned. Straight Shoot was the biggest one. It was my weekly, and for a while, twice weekly wrestling podcast. We talked about contemporary wrestling and also retro, older wrestling and stuff. And then I did a storytelling podcast. It was like an oral narrative, not like a radio serial with wacky voices, but each week I would write a story and then I would tell it in one take, primarily because I don't like editing, and I just want to train myself to be able to do it in one take. And that was called Scald. And I did those for a while, and, I did some work at IDW on the G.I. Joe franchise, and then I did, you mentioned already, the Comic Book Professional Wrestling. with my co-creator, Chris Moreno, and we worked previously on a graphic novel for the Roddenberry folks called Worth. But the comic story of professional wrestling was a monster. It's like it's over 170 pages, and it is. I tell people it was exhaustively and exhaustingly researched. It was way more work than I realized it was going to be when I first started working on it. Just assembling all the data and the names and dates and double checking and triple checking things. But, it was extraordinarily well received, which I was really grateful for, because wrestling fans can be a tough crowd to please. That's the most political way to put it. And, I still hear from people about it, which is amazing. It's been out for a few years now. And that, from there, I started working with my editor, Brett Israel, at No One Left to Fight, or at Dark Horse, with No One Left to Fight, which on display on Lexington Street, with my co-creator, Fico Ossio, who, we had previously worked together on some of the Hasbro. We hadn't actually worked together, but we were both working on the Hasbro books at IDW, and we really wanted a chance to kind of do our own thing, and No One Left to Fight was that. It's our riff on shonen manga generally, Dragon Ball most specifically, but there are other references in there too. And it's kind of an attempt to do what we love about those, but in a U.S. comics format. That was my first Dark Horse book. Did really well. And then
can I cut in real quick to talk about Fico? First of all, just on the other side of the screen, tons of Dragon Ball figures. Just
awesome.
Way too many of them.
You're my audience.
Which is exactly why I loved it. Fico is doing Mr. Miracle right now, right?
Yes.
I'm subscribed. Yeah. That book is gorgeous.
Yeah, he's something else, man. I'm thrilled that he's getting more eyeballs on what he's doing, because it is really, really brilliant stuff.
I would be remiss if we didn't mention it. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
oh no.
That book is so good.
Yeah, he's amazing. So it comes as no surprise to me how good that
You're like,
is.
of course, obviously.
And Brandon's great too. Brandon Easton, my pal.
Incredible.
The writer of that book. That was my first Dark Horse book. Then, more recently, I see you have Worst Dudes in the background. That is my, me and Tony Gregory. That is our raunchy sci-fi detective romp. It's kind of like Lobo meets Big Lebowski. It's kind of how we sell it to people. And then, I'm not sure when this will air, but launching on July 14th in comic book shops is my third Dark Horse series. It's Savage Hearts with my co-creator Jed Doherty, and it is it's a jungle fantasy romantic comedy with a big barbarian bruiser woman named Bronwyn, and a lonely beast man who talks to dinosaurs named Growl. And it is a will they or won't they romantic comedy for the ages, with dinosaurs and evil wizards and bird people and a bunch of other stuff that I don't want to spoil just yet too. And then on the other side of things, so that's my direct market comics stuff. I've also become, in the past year, a really big Kickstarter guy.
Yeah.
Everything shut down during COVID last year, and me wanting to do stuff and make stuff. I was really fortunate to team up with Tyrell Cannon, who had previously done a bunch of stuff on Kickstarter, including his own series, Eris, which the second issue of that is launching very soon. So you gotta look out for that. It's awesome. It's like it's his riff on big high concept 80s action sci-fi movies. The first issue is amazing, and you let me read the second one already. It's beautiful. It's really great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a penciler inker and writer and colors. He can do it all. We teamed up for Beef Bros, the aspirational leftist superhero comic, which got funded very quickly. It was a big success on Kickstarter last fall. That hit both backer mailboxes in April. And that same month in April, Chris Moreno, my co-creator on Comic Story Professional Wrestling, we launched Stone Master, which is the pro-community stoner kung fu comic. So it's like, you should back up a little bit. Beef Bros was our attempt to do superheroes with good politics. Superheroes that kind of align with our political ideas. And kind of throwback to, the way a lot of these superheroes like Superman and Wonder Woman, what they originally were, right? They were beating up landlords and kind of like exploitative criminals and wife beaters and stuff like that, as opposed to kind of what they later became. And so Master is Chris and I doing, I tell people it's like Pineapple Express meets Kung Fu Hustle, right? So it's structured like a classic, like Shaw Brothers Kung Fu movie, right? Or like, Drunken Master is obviously a big inspiration.
The one.
But it's set in contemporary Los Angeles, and it's got a lot of stoner comedy because the main character, Frankie Wong, is, he's a martial arts savant, but also a huge pothead, loves smoking cannabis, right? I'm just spacing out. This is the gag. I'm just spacing out for this.
It's not part of the bit.
Here's what it is. It's set in the fictional community of Chavez Heights. I'm a little rusty. I did all this picture a couple months ago.
Yeah, it's already on the way.
It's based in the fictional Los Angeles community of Chavez Heights, and it's all about people in Chavez Heights banding together and defending their community from this big, nasty corporation coming in, trying to buy everything up and ruin everything that's great about the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that is a list of all of my comics. You asked for it. I gave it to you.
So succinct.
What do you want from me?
Incredible. Just so many boom, 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 boom throughout. Just always something going on in the world of Aubrey Sitterson. A phrase you used earlier was many plates spinning, and that's how I imagine it. Very successful plates.
Well, thanks. It's intentional. I mentioned it earlier. Spent a long time kind of out howling in the wilderness about kind of this, trying to get people on board for what is, to my mind, I don't think my comics are, I see people describe my comics as like quirky or weird or offbeat or whatever, and I don't see them that way. I think that there's a pretty clear audience for this kind of stuff, and it's somewhat different than maybe like the traditional Wednesday Warrior comic book shop audience. But I think folks are out there, and it's the way all these books have been going and how well they've been doing has really been a testament to the fact that those folks are out there. And the stuff that I've been howling about this whole time of like, look, people like weird, colorful genre stuff, right? They like, and you see this in film and television and prose all the time, right? But in comics, we've kind of had we as an industry have kind of had a focus on, a rather narrow focus in terms of what types of stories and how they're told. And so, it's been really gratifying to be proven right. How about that? Is that too arrogant?
No, absolutely. Like, people want to see themselves in their books, and they want to see that there's something better. And I feel like you're right. When you're doing event A into tie-in B into event C into plot point D, like, cool. I know that the character that died will be back next month. When you can show a new way, when you say we can do it this way, we can do a cool book and it just be cool and we move on with our lives. Like,
we can do a romantic comedy set in the jungle with dinosaurs. It's okay. It's comics.
Exactly.
Can you do that stuff? You should do that stuff because, and that's that to me is one of the real strengths of comics is that the barrier to entry is pretty low. Like the comics I work, there are people out there who do, their own self-published comics, and they don't even need publishers, right? They just do everything themselves, and they put it out there. I need a few more people involved in that, because I'm just not all that good at the rest of the stuff besides writing. But still, the amount of people involved making War Stews or Savage Hearts or No One Left to Fight is so much smaller than making any other type of visual entertainment, right? If you're on television or movies or stage productions or anything like that. And that means that you have this freedom. You have this freedom to get weird and do different stuff and kind of experiment and play around with stuff that might not fly in a more expensive, more people involved, higher risk medium. So yeah, it's a joy to be able to avail myself of that freedom.
Absolutely. And, you know, speaking of the romantic comedy Savage Hearts, I imagine that's this Wednesday, let's say. You know, let's say we're that close. We're going to have to push our timeline because this could come out and it's tomorrow, you know. Savage Hearts is releasing tomorrow. Yeah, July 14th.
I'm going to belabor the release date. July 14th. It's
so let's talk about that book. I got a peek at it, and it's incredible, obviously, but color-wise, line-wise, lettering-wise, you know, just incredible. You know, let's dive into that world. We have these two characters who might be opposed, even though they don't seem like it. You know, tell us more about that world.
Yeah, so it takes place in a dinosaur jungle valley, right? That's the setting.
Yeah.
It's hot. It's steamy. People don't need to wear many clothes, which I think is perfect for romantic comedy, right?
Absolutely.
To show off all that flesh. But you know, there's a lot of opportunity for adventure and fun, kind of fantasy tropes. But you know, kind of like what I was talking about with Stone Master. You know, the idea is, you know, take the structure of one genre, right? In this case, romantic comedies, and then, you know, use that as the skeleton, and then this analogy is getting out of control. That's the skeleton, and then the meat and the muscle and the fat and the sinew are all of the fantasy tropes, and like kind of like jungle adventure tropes that we back on top of it. So yeah, it's about Bronwyn, who is a big, beefy, muscular barbarian woman, and just muscles on top of muscles. She's awesome. This is Jed's wheelhouse, right?
Yeah.
If you're familiar with Jed Doherty's artwork, like this is what he does. Like big, extremely muscular, super sexy, just outrageously sexy.
Every character,
but not objectified women, right? Like these, like they all have a sense of agency and power. And that's especially true for Bronwyn. And it's aces. And so she's one of our romantic leads, and then and she's on the hunt. She has a single focus, which is revenge on this wizard, Lord Tretch, who she's trapped to this jungle valley. And she gets spotted by this weird, solitary, hanging out in trees, talking to dinosaurs, beast man, named Growl. He's covered in like pinkish purple fur. He's got big old horns. He wears practically nothing. He's practically naked. So he looks fantastic as well. Everybody looks fantastic. Everybody's super good looking.
Yeah.
Again, good for a romantic comedy, I think. And he spots her and is smitten. She not as thrilled. So it's very much a you know, I keep trying to think of like a more recent reference that doesn't make me sound so old, but it's very much like a Cheers type thing.
Yeah.
But not like original Cheers, like Ted Danson and Kirstie Alley kind of thing, right? Like that's the dynamic, right?
Yeah.
So it's weirdo Growl trying to do his best to win over Bronwyn, and her just having no time for it whatsoever. And that's kind of, you know, and along the way they have adventures and getting weird scraps and deal with like all the stuff that would come with like a big, crazy sword and sorcery jungle fantasy. But it's all in service of, you know, figuring out whether these two are gonna finally get together again.
Yeah, we're filming this on the last day of Pride Month, and I've actually been pitching this book because we try and get subscribers and talk about books, especially when we're excited about them. And I pitch it as like the perfect bisexual book. Everyone is hot. Everyone has a reason to be hot and to do the things they want to do. And so the story just exists, and you want to be there. You want to be involved. It's like you were saying, it's not objectifying. It's just great.
Yeah, I think that is, it's a fine line to walk, right? And I think all this stuff is subjective, right? And so, you know, there probably is someone, I don't know, like if somebody were to tell me, oh, you know, this is offensive for X, Y, and Z, well, I can't argue with it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But what you're describing really was our intent. you know, and it's great working with Jed on this stuff because Jed draws, you know, Jed I think is most known for these hashtag big strong women that he draws, right? But don't sleep on Jed's dudes. They're all hunks.
Yeah.
They're all, like even like the side character, they got like big lantern jaws, and they're just I don't know, they look like matinee idols. It's great, and like that was you know that was the design, that was the intent, you know, because again, you know, this is one of my bugaboos. Comics is a visual medium, and you know when I'm writing comics and when I'm coming up with ideas for comics, even it's with an eye toward the fact that I want every page to look awesome. Like that to me is the primary goal when I'm writing a comic. Is that you know, especially for direct market comics, they're 20 pages long. We only have 20 pages, right? One page represents 5% of the. That's the math for you, right?
Yes.
It represents 5% of this total thing that somebody's holding in their hands. You can't afford for any of them to not be awesome. And like, you know, that doesn't mean that you need to go from explosion to explosion, right? Or like just splash page after splash page. There are a lot of ways you can make pages visually interesting, but they must be visually interesting. And I think that you're aided in that by, you know, making people good looking, making characters that people want to spend time with and want to linger over and stare at and ogle, maybe, which I definitely hope will be the case in Savage Hearts. I think there'll be some serious ogling going on with our fictional characters.
Respectfully. Yeah, I mean, that's the goal. And that book is so great. Comes out July 14th. We're all really, really excited about it. This question's going to come out really, really serious, but it's not. What inspires you?
You know, I read a lot. That's, you know, the past year with sheltering at home and everything, I actually started watching less TV because I like fewer TV and movies. Because I don't know. It just I went through this process of realizing, especially because you know, early on in shelter at home, I realized you know we're gonna have like at least a year of this, and I need to figure out how I'm gonna use this time. And one of the things I realized I wanted to do more of was reading, and so I read a ton, and you know it varies time to time. Right now, I'm reading a few different things. I'm reading. I fell in love with Slam Dunk this past year, which I've never read before, because I'm not a basketball person, and it doesn't matter. It is just such effective soap opera done with such a steady hand and hilarious cartoony, and it's just it's devastatingly effective. I can't pronounce anything. I don't know how to say it. But he's amazing. And so I'm finishing up Slam Dunk. I started reading Vagabond. Prose-wise, I'm reading Wuthering Heights.
Great.
And which I never read. I made it through high school without having to read Wuthering Heights, and I'm glad because I'm enjoying it more as an adult than I thought I would as than I would have as a teenager. And I'm also reading. I've got Barry Windsor Smith's Monster on deck.
That book is next. Gorgeous.
I know. I haven't even seen it. I haven't looked at it in the preview pages because I wanted to go in fresh. So yeah, you know, I try and read like a pretty diverse set of stuff. I subscribe to a bunch of kind of lefty magazines for my news, and you know, I try and like slot nonfiction stuff. And I read a big thing about kind of reappraising Mao and the Cultural Revolution recently. So you know, just some light reading,
some light casual reading,
and So you know, I think for me, you know, what inspires me, other great, smart, challenging work. You know, like that's the biggest thing, truthfully.
That's incredible. Yeah, I've been trying to read more as well. I'm going to tackle One Piece, I think, over the next couple months. I'm caught up on My Hero, which is my current favorite thing to read. The art over there is just unbelievable. And what they do
Tico is a huge My Hero fan.
Stuff to do now.
My co-creator knowing how to fight.
Yeah.
So I'm not big on My Hero, but artistically he pulls a lot from My Hero and also One Punch Man, which I love too.
Yeah, One Punch Man's got some characters and some panels that just whenever I see a manga panel in anything that I just really like haunts me, I'll like take it and save it. And so I've got like a whole collage I'm working on of just like ridiculous panels. You talked about how you started at Marvel, worked through all of these different things. You've had so many amazing co-creators. Do you feel like you have a mentor that you always go to? What's that? The wizard at the Shazam wizard, the great wizard. Do you have one of those?
Yeah, his name was Shazam originally, right?
Yeah.
Is that the thing? Yeah, you know what? I mentioned him already, and it sounds like name dropping because he is rightfully a legend. But Howard Chaykin is a dear friend of mine.
Wow.
And we worked together at Marvel. My first time working with him was the issue of New Avengers that he drew, that Brian Bendis was writing. Yeah, it was during Civil War. It was like the Captain America issue of New Avengers. And Howard drew that, and I was really, really excited to assist on that because I was such a huge Howard Chaykin fan. And he had been PNG at Marvel for a while, and that was like his first. And like Bendis had gotten approval for Howard to come back and do stuff, and I pitched him on. We had the pitch for Howard Chaykin or Mark Guggenheim's Blade pitch. We had that, and we didn't know who was going to draw it. And I was like, Howard should draw this. That's not like an immediate. Like you don't think vampire, like half vampire hunter, and your brain go immediately to Howard Chaykin.
Yeah.
But like the stuff that Mark had planned, it made sense to me, and I thought the work ended up being tremendous. But we hit it off, which was a joy for me because his work has been so influential, and his approach to comics has been so influential to me. Both, as a reader, but then even more so as a friend and talking to that guy. And, if anybody listening to this ever gets an opportunity to go to a talk, he does talks, he does like virtual classes and stuff like that. If you ever get an opportunity to, I highly recommend it. If you're working in comics or you want to work in comics, definitely. But even if you're just a fan of comics, hearing how he one time told me that he didn't see himself as an artist. He saw himself as a craftsman, right? He saw himself as someone who learned how this language of comics works and learned all the skills to do it, and he could read a script, he could figure out how to draw this page. And this is different from a lot of artists who, it just comes naturally to them and it flows out of them, the way to kind of structure and format a page. And Howard runs himself down and talks about how, like I posted a thing on Facebook today, like talking about how, like, as like a kid, he didn't have any like discernible talent for art or anything like that. But I think that's actually like he managed to find a way to make that work in his favor because he outworked everybody else. He figured out like the secret math of how to assemble a comic book page and one of his big bugaboos and something that I think about a ton. Like there's a lot of little things that I've learned from him and kind of the way that he approaches writing comics. But one of the biggest and kind of like the overarching thing, and he brings it up all the time, is that the single most important storytelling unit of a comic is the page, right? It's not the panel, it's the page, because you turn the page and you're confronted by the next page as a whole. And that this speaks to what I was mentioning earlier about making sure that every page is awesome and it means something, and it's something that people want to linger over. And I think Chaykin is brilliant at that. Chaykin is brilliant at figuring out how to make all of these page elements work in concert toward a unified goal. And I think that, one of the things there are a lot of things that are fun about working with Jed on Savage Hearts, but one of them is that guy was legit. I don't know anymore, but he's legit a Chaykin protege because he was one of his assistants.
Wow.
And you can actually, if you look at Jed's artwork, it's the influences are clear, right? If you look at like the musculature and the anatomy, it's absolutely Art Adams, right?
Yeah.
It's Art Adams and the people who learned from Art Adams, like Ed McGuinness, right? But if you look at like the way the characters move, like the sense of motion that he creates and how he chooses these poses and stuff, it's all Richard Corbin, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, if you look at like the comedic pacing and how he does these gags, which there are a lot of, this romantic comedy, it's all her gag. He's a huge Tintin fan, right?
Yeah.
Or Tonton for the French speaking among us. He's a big Hergé fan, so you can see that kind of Linda Clara, Franco Belgian comics approach to the comedic pacing. However, the thing that to me pops out immediately and most strongly is that he lays out pages like Chaykin. And I don't know, like when people are reading Savage Hearts, I hope they look through and they think about like kind of all these different influences, because to my mind, this is one of the joys of working in genre, right? Whether it's in comics or any other medium, I imagine, is being part of this conversation and getting to riff off of and use and build on and repurpose elements previously that carry with them some kind of cachet or like preconceived notions, and either building off that or subverting it or rejecting it. And it's joy. It really is a joy and a blessing, honestly, to be able to work with a guy like Jed who pulls from all these disparate places, and it's clear, you can see it, but he's able to synthesize them into something new and something different, and that's what Savage Hearts is.
Yeah, Ed McGuinness is super hot right now. I've always been a McGuinness fan, and you can see those jaws, and then the page layouts, and then like you were saying with the gags, there's some good stuff in that first issue. I'm very excited to talk to people about.
Thank you.
So real quick, we're just gonna blow through a couple more quick things.
Please.
It's your process. Are you doing 100 sit-ups, 100 push-ups every morning, or jazzercise? What's your MO for the I gotta write 10 pages or 2 pages or a paragraph today?
So I'm not going to give you the full rundown on my fitness routine because I was on Gutterball friend JB Rowe a few months ago.
Yeah.
And I started talking about it, and I got like halfway into it, and I'm like, oh my god, this is so, like, I'm getting bored. Just describe it. I gotta go apologize to my wife for bothering her with this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But no, that's, fitness has become really important to me, even more so in this past year, because it's part of the same thing I was talking about of like, okay, I've got a year, how do I want to use this? And what I decided was I want to use it to read a bunch, to write a bunch, right? And so all that stuff is coming out now. And also exercise, get in shape, monitor my macros, count my calories, do all that stuff. So that's actually, it's a big, important part of my life, honestly. And I don't think that that's separate from the creative process. I think, not to get all like Pythagorean with you, but like, a human being's 3 parts, right? There's the mind, right, which controls everything, and then there's the spirit, which animates you and gives you your get up and go, and then there's the body. And for the person, the human, to be working at full capacity, you gotta have all those things in line, and it's the mind's job to kind of wrangle the spirit and command the body. And I think that those, it's brought me a lot of joy to be able to do that and to kind of concentrate and a book that I really love is Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And I love it for a few reasons. One is that the pictures are amazing. It's just all of these just ridiculous looking dudes, just humongous with like their 80s hair and it's awesome. 2, I find it really informative because he kind of discusses how they just kind of trial and error created modern bodybuilding. But 3, kind of the thing that stuck with me the most and that I think about the most often is that guy talks about, he's like, I was 16 and I was in Austria and I decided that I wanted to become the world's best bodybuilder. And I did. And I chose that as the goal, and then I made all the choices that would lead to that goal, and then I did it. And then I decided that I wanted to become the world's biggest action star. And so I just did that instead, and I just made all the choices. And then I decided I wanted to become the governor of the of the biggest state in the union, right? And then I did that too. And that to me was, it's something I think about all the time. And so, yeah, my process, I do the fitness thing and the nutrition thing, and I don't separate that from the creative process. I think that's part of it. Yeah. And, I joke about it, but like, there's a centering that comes with doing Tabatas of jump rope, just doing it as fast as you can and like getting the bile out and focusing and getting that clear head. But yeah, that's definitely a part of it. When it comes to actually sitting down and doing the writing, I am a meticulous outliner. I plan things to a really kind of manic degree. And that's, that was one of the things I worked on for a really long time. That I was planning things too much. I was packing things in too tightly, and kind of No Enough to Fight for me was a big step forward in terms of figuring out how to let things breathe and give myself space to figure more things out on the fly and kind of settle in and ruminate on stuff instead of this like bam, 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 like manic pace. And I don't know. What was the question? I'm just babbling at you.
No, I think
it's... What do you want to know from me?
I was, for your writing, you were saying you just outline a lot after you get super shredded, which I'm obviously paraphrasing, which I think is smart. I think, a lot of the times I used to travel and play Magic, very mentally taxing sport. And we'd always start a day off with a workout. The day of the tournament, 6 a.m., we're in the hotel gym running so that we're just ready. Eat like 3 bananas and go to town,
I love it.
Yeah, I miss that. That's definitely...
Just eat 3 bananas first thing in the morning. You can do that. You can do that anytime you want.
You do it right now. You can do it right now.
All that potassium helps with dehydration.
Exactly. So before we wrap up here and we do the whole like legit shill, let's talk about the future. I'm obviously huge No One Left to Fight fan. That book is gorgeous. Colors, everything about it. Let's, what are your dream collaborations for the future? If you were being hypothetical, and you were just making stuff up and totally not being serious, what would you say?
It's tough because, I'm really blessed to be working with so many great folks already, right? Like so many of my favorite artists I'm getting to work with, like working with Fico was a dream on No Enough to Fight. Tony and I are pals, and Worst Dudes is just like, the joy of Worst Dudes is just me and Tony trying to make each other laugh, just trying to do stuff we know it's going to crack up at. Jed is a powerhouse cartoonist. It's absurd what that guy, the improvements he makes to my, and that's the joy of all these collaborations, right? Is getting to work with people. And I think it's true of all my collaborators that it's a synergistic process. It's not, it's not an assembly line. It's something where there's give and take and we build off of each other and end up with something better than the sum of its parts, right? Yeah. And with all the folks, Chris Moreno, Tyler Cannon, all the folks that, and stuff unannounced stuff, right? Like I emailed a guy earlier today about a thing we're putting together. I'm spoiled. I'm spoiled with all these amazing artists I get to work with. I don't really spend much time doing the dream bucket list of artists thing because of that, because there's so many amazing artists that I already have the pleasure of working with. Obviously there are huge names that I would love to work with, right? You mentioned Ed McGuinness earlier. Oh, man, John Romita Jr., I think, is one of the top 5 living, breathing cartoonists on the face of this planet.
JRJR.
Right? I could list my favorite artists all day, but part of me feels like it would do a disservice to all these great people that I'm already working with, because they're amazing, and we're building our own stuff. We're creating our own things. So, and truthfully, that was always the dream for me. The dream wasn't to work on, and I know for a lot of people, the appeal of working in comics is getting to contribute to this tapestry, right? Whether it's Marvel or DC or whatever other characters. for me, that wasn't it. For me, the appeal was freedom to tell weird stories that look awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate enough to have that opportunity with so many amazing artists already, you know?
I find that that's the general sentiment, and that's, I think, what makes comics magical, is, like, they're this pure enjoyment, like, filtered to us. Like, it's just really special. I want to shout out one other person, Taylor Esposito. Just letters the crap out of books.
He's the man. He's the man. There's a reason he letters everything that I do. Taylor and I are extremely in simpatico. And I've known that guy for a really long time, back since he was in the bullpen at Marvel, and he's developed into an amazing letterer, my favorite letterer. And a big part of that is he knows how to use lettering as a graphical element on the page, which again is a Chaykin thing, right? Yeah. If you look at like Chaykin's work with Ken Busiak specifically, right? Like obviously American Flag, on The Shadow, and I think they're working together again on Hey Kids.
All right.
But I think Busiak letters that. But yeah, he gets it. He gets that lettering is supposed to be part of the art. And it's supposed to, even though, digital lettering these days is on a separate layer and it's vectorized art as opposed to pixel-based art.
Yeah.
He understands that it is crucial that it fit in and that it contribute to the whole of the page. And sometimes that means doing big, bonkers, awesome lettering treatments. Which, we do a lot of, and in all the Dark Horse books. We do a ton of them. All the crazy like sound effects and like special move names and enough to fight. And then there's a lot of like very peculiar lettering choices that we made in War Students for different characters, right? And like kind of repetitive things that you'll see cropping up over the course of the series that carry weight and value. And in Savage Hearts, every dinosaur has its own language, like typesetting, like style, like stylization, and all that's intentional. And it's great working with Taylor because he likes that stuff, and I'm putting words in his mouth, but I think that guy values the approach that I and my co-creators and collaborators have to making comics, which is this idea that it should be a holistic process and that everything should work together, and that this is not an assembly line. Even though U.S. comics have assembly lines in their DNA, right? Like going back to Will Eisner and the early Marvel bullpen, like how they kind of built these processes to make these things as quickly as possible. I don't think that's how you get the best comics. Assembly lines aren't how you get the best anything. You need this collaboration and this give and take. And Taylor and I, we've worked together enough now that I'll just put Taylor magic in scripts and he'll know that it's just time to go nuts.
Yeah.
And Taylor's real strength, outside of his like technical ability to do this stuff and make these great choices, is also knowing when to hold back. And knowing, that the lettering shouldn't be the start of the show. The lettering should blend in and contribute to, again, the page. And I think that's the approach that we share that allows us to work together so well. And while we're talking about other collaborators on these books, Lover and Kaczynski, the legendary Lover and Kaczynski colors both War Students and Savage Hearts. And for folks who don't know, this is a big deal. It's a really big deal. Lover Kaczynski is one of the folks who invented contemporary comic book coloring, contemporary digital comic book coloring. He was one of the first to do it, and he kind of codified the approach and the look of digital comic book coloring before there was, color separations, and he created that. Not by himself. Steve Buccellato was, I think, digital communicator. I should have boned up my history beforehand, but he's a foundational figure, an extremely important figure in comic book history. He's a big reason why comics look the way they do today.
Yeah.
He's also brilliant. I worked with him on G.I. Joe at IDW. That was the first time we worked together, and what I loved about working with Lover is that he is a storyteller with color in a way that few other colorists are, truthfully. I think a lot of colorists are really great at imparting mood and, choosing kind of color palettes for scenes and stuff like that. But Lover takes it further, and Lover reads a script and he engages with it, and his brain immediately gets to thinking about how he can use color to accentuate all of the emotional beats in the script, which is really rare. And it's a joy to work with him, again, especially because I mentioned earlier, Lobo, like this classic Keith Giffen, Alan Grant, Simon Bisley, Lobo comics from the 80s, guess who colored those? Aubrey Sitterson. Yep. So having him coloring Worst Dudes especially is really special for us.
It's perfect. It's exactly what should have happened. You know what I mean? So before the big shill, you got any other words of wisdom or anything you want to impart upon the people?
I said buy my books right up top, so that's covered. Come follow me on social media. I'm easy to find. There aren't really any other Aubrey Sittersons running around. I'm most active on Twitter, but I'm on Facebook and Instagram too. The best thing to do, though, is subscribe to my newsletter, AubreySitterson.com. You can sign up for the newsletter there, because that is where I let you know about new books as well as new Kickstarters, which, spoiler alert, I'm going to have a new one launching later this year.
Wow.
Kickstarter. So I'm not ready to share any details about it, but if you want to be first to know, sign up for that newsletter. That's the way to do it.
Wow, well, thank you so much. Savage Hearts, July 14th. At your local comic book store. You can pre-order it.
Worst Dudes 2 on July 7th.
Wow. So yeah, you'll probably already have... You should be reading Worst Dudes 2 while you're listening to this, honestly.
Well, maybe afterwards. So
yeah.
I want people to focus on
pay attention to what's happening.
The rapport that we have.
I'm Lex from Vault of Midnight Comic Books and stuff. Right now, we've got 25th anniversary merch by Alexis Arit, which is pretty dope.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, dude.
Are y'all selling those online?
Yep, they're on our website. We've got hoodies that have Vault of Midnight down the side. This is our new 25th anniversary logo. Yeah, Alexis graciously made this thing. It's...
You know what? You asked me earlier who are bucket list artists to work with. Alexis Arit. Alexis is on the list.
I couldn't believe... We got the proofs in, and our owner was like, yeah, we're doing it. And I was like, oh, cool. I need one. So check this out. Happy Pride. Get vaccinated. Come see us at Vault of Midnight Comic Books and stuff in Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, Detroit. Hit us up at vaultofmidnight.shop if you want some shipping. This has been Aubrey Sitterson and Lex. We've been chilling. Thank you so much for joining us.